Hi, Leo. It's Jenny here with your June tarot horoscope. Sure, how about that one? That just leapt right out. So I got a card for you for June. First two-thirds of the month is Gemini season. Then we have the June solstice, which is the summer solstice if you're in the northern hemisphere, and the winter solstice if you're in the south. And then it's Cancer season. And let's see what card just wanted to leap itself out for you. Okay, you have the Two of Swords. So this is the way he looks the right way up, which he came out the right way up. So this is the way he looks. So we have this figure here, and he's blindfolded, carrying these two swords in either hand, examining a book here in front of him. And down below we have this kind of shape of a cow or a bowl, and inside there's this kind of ocean scene with some waves, and up top we have a moon. So that's what's going on. Lots of blues and greens, very cool tones. And Two of Swords. Okay. Two of Swords. New insights. This card shows that your thoughts and your discerning powers are in the process of transcending your previous limits. The moon at the top of the card represents the cycles of life. The bull, cow or calf, in the lower part of the picture stands for your physicality, for your moods and irritability, as well as your sense of security and tranquility. Subtle sentiments and unexpressed needs demand your attention. Unvoiced desires and fears await a response. And yet those louder and more insistent opinions and intentions are in no less need of closer scrutiny. You need to use the weapons of your mind, thinking, knowing, and discerning, to probe your emotions and wants. The blindfold warns against a lack of attention or inadequate mental vigilance. And yet the blindfolded eyes also represent impartiality and the transition to a more spiritual vision. The frontiers of the realm of the mind within which your current questions are focused are to be found beyond the concrete and the obvious. The body of the bull contains drawings of several little boats depicting a voyage or a maritime battle, perhaps. If you consider the bull, the picture of the saint at the center of the picture, and the moon above as representing the sum total of a human being, you will note, down below in the realm of the unconscious or in the lower abdomen, there is growing unrest. Little boats move to and fro in the waves. In the middle region, the realm of your normal waking consciousness, everything is clearly defined but also rather rigid. Noble aims and ideals represented by the moon float overhead. The challenge is to penetrate new spaces with the weapons of your mind and to shed the light of consciousness on all aspects of your personality. Practical advice. Do not become entrenched in uncertainty. Do not pretend to be blind or to not understand. Expand your horizons. Search within to grow beyond yourself. Okay, so tall order for this card. It's just, saying it's no more or less than to discern the unconscious, conscious, and beyond conscious realms of your mind and what you want. So no biggie. So this, again, the swords are weapons of the mind. It's all about thinking, thought, rational clarity, and using that calculating part of the mind. So this isn't necessarily saying, like gut instincts is more intuition, and that can be really important, but there are things that we also, we do need to think about consciously and discern with our minds, not just our emotions, but how we feel. Feelings are always true according to what you're feeling, but what your story is about, what those feelings mean, isn't always true. So feelings are important to help inform importance, but they're not necessarily going to give you the clarity that the mind is going to be capable of. But of course, we're seeing that the mind, it is a double-edged sword, and it has a lot of strengths, but it's not infallible. Or the fact that, you can use the weapons of the mind, but you as an individual aren't necessarily this totally open and unbiased and all facts involved sort of person. So even though you're using the tools of your mind, you're not necessarily working with a completely unfallible pieces of information. So the fact that this person is blindfolded, we see how it can go either way. It can indicate that you are not paying attention to something, that there's some blinders on, there's something you really don't want to look at, whether it's not wanting to, Like if your mind has got everything really, really worked out and everything makes sense, except there's this one thing that if you threw it into the mix would throw everything, all of your conclusions out of whack, and you just don't want to do the work again. So it's just easier to not think about that, whether it's something that's really painful or uncomfortable, or whether what you're not looking at is some emotional reaction to things and you're trying to be, no, I have to be unbiased, I have to be this judge with my swords blindfolded, and I'm impartial, damn it, I'm not going to see these things. Sometimes that can be you're ignoring emotions and intuition, and things that are not just rational thought are also pieces of information that your rational mind can use. And so if you're ignoring something because you're concerned it's going to sway you, or you think, well, it's irrational, or it's just these emotions, or I'm scared of it, or I don't understand it, that blind spot is going to be an issue with your decision, because it's not like it just goes away just because you can't see it. So there is that warning that there's, something you might be avoiding. But the blindfold also has this showing that you're impartial and not being swayed just by the look of things. The blind judge isn't just swayed by a pretty face. So there's also the power of impartiality from what may distract you, from illusions, from things that look like they're one thing, but they're hiding something behind their back. So you're ignoring that as well. So you might be ignoring something important, but you're also not being distracted by other things that could be a red herring. So that's really important too. This card is, it's inviting this possibility that though you are using the weapons of your mind to make these choices and discern, you are not just working with the things that are physical, tangible, rational, on the plane of reality that we normally work with and we normally accept as the way things are. The idea of being blinded with your sight is that now you can see beyond just what the eyes see. You can see visions of a spiritual level. This concept of now the current questions, the answers to your current questions may be found beyond the concrete and the obvious. So if you're not distracted by what is real in front of you, you can tune in a different way. It's not the same as intuition. Intuition's down here. It's this gut response. It's from you. It's still internal to you. Whereas this is kind of inviting like a higher reception, that maybe this thought or this cognition from information. It's still information. Like the source is dealing with information, and so this is receiving information from planes that are perhaps just beyond the physical, and that is now what's going to be able to help you to be added in, because your mind can only process the information it has. And so no matter how smart you are, no matter how rational you are, no matter great logical your calculations are, if you don't have all the facts, you can't just rely on the mind to get a good conclusion. So that's often why we invited intuition and emotions and other things to try to fill out the picture. But this is really trying to say, okay, listen for other kinds of information that may be coming in that you also, you still want to use discernment. You still want to trust. So there's this whole, the complicating factor of discernment, not just ignoring things you don't want to see, but also not being distracted by things that are going to sway you in a different way, and then also being open to things that are maybe beyond the typical, all that can help you try to figure it out. And what you're trying to figure out is, again, thinking of this three-way part, this what is in the unconscious that for you looks like it's kicking up. If you've been feeling kind of yucky in the stomach, if things don't really feel right, maybe that's one of the things you've been maybe ignoring, is this unrest in the unconscious. And, because the things in your daily life in this sort of middle box is working out. Like a lot of things we can feel like we've got it made now. We've got the things that we want. We've got the job, the money, the relationships, the friendships. Things are stable. Things feel good. And there's this like, don't touch it. Like it's working. But we're like, oh, something's not working. Something feels wrong. Something's not quite right. And so you have to be willing to, okay, what is it that I'm really aiming for? And that's this idea of this moon, the higher ideals, the purpose that is beyond just the practical everyday, that's going to guide us to say, okay, we got to listen to the unrest. We need to be willing to maybe get messy in the practical conscious waking life, to like the conscious may be upset for a bit as the unconscious comes up, but all of that is lining up to be trying to get to this higher purpose. So it's, this kind of invitation of allowing that messiness to come up, and then using that impartial but still honest mental clarity to try to make those choices and discern what it is that's going on. Listening to those unexpressed needs, like whatever these like feelings in the unconscious can be all manner of things, and it's going to look different for each of you. It might be very internal. It might be your own sort of desires, repressed desires, or traumas. It might be how you feel about interactions with other people. So it might involve other people. That really didn't sit well with me, or okay, I'm really feeling this different kind of vibe. It's really setting me off, which might, your interpretation of it still might not be right. You might be correct that, there's something that's not feeling well with me, something that doesn't feel quite right over there. But that's when you're still using the mind here. You're still trying to get clarity, trying to get more information, invite other people into those conversations to say, hey, I'm feeling a little weird. This is my storyline, but I'm still going to put it to you. I don't want my blinders to be saying, oh, my storyline is right. And that's the blind spot that you're putting, is the assumption that, your gut instinct, your interpretation of your gut instinct can't be wrong. And that, you still want to be in community and connection with other people, which is perfect for this coming out of the card here. Perfect for this season right now, because we're in Gemini season, and Gemini is all about connection and communication, and that way also building community, building friendships. It's this kind of fresh beginnings, and just kind of like wanting to be chatty, wanting to flit around and share and connect through the realms of the mind. So it's a really great time to be trying to build those thought processes and gear up the processes of the mind, because that's energetically what people are kind of wanting to do now anyways, be in communication with each other. And communication doesn't just have to be verbal. It can be all kinds of things. Gemini invites any sort of communication. You could also be thinking about the communications within yourself, your cognitive and conscious awareness being connected to your unconscious, being connected to your hopes and desires and your fears. That communication is also an internal thing. We have our kind of internal systems and community that we are. And so good communication and healthy community starts in yourself. How well are you communicating with all the parts of you? And then with that fluidity and comfort, then you can be communicating well with other people as well. It all starts in the root. So that is a really great thing to be doing right now. As well, Gemini doesn't take things too seriously. So even though this card, it often feels like there's a lot going on. There's like, some things upset down here, and stress, I got to figure it all out. It can feel like really kind of tense. But Gemini season's like, is it though? Like, is it really going to be that serious? Even if you get it wrong, what's the worst that can happen? Like, we're okay with things messing up. You really take yourself too seriously. Gemini invites that kind of foolishness into things, and this tapping into like the joke of the universe, that like, it's really not that serious. It's okay. It's really okay. So that is a great way to, yes, these things are important. Yes, you want to work it out, but mistakes aren't always mistakes. Mistakes might just be another learning lesson. It might just be another step on the journey. So you don't need to be so hung up about it. Do your best, but just invite that lightness. Then we're going to have solstice. So solstice is this peak of intensity, whether it's the intensity of the light or the intensity of the dark. It's a peak of intensity, but the sign that we're going to start to head back into balance again. It's not getting any more intense than this, any lighter or darker. We're bringing back in the other energy. And so that might feel like a point of clarity with all of this kind of work and discernment. It's like if you're in the northern hemisphere, there's like shining the light on things, or as bright as it's going to get, illuminating everything. And then, you might feel this, okay, like now it's making sense. It's illuminated. If you're in the northern hemisphere, darkness itself has a different way in which your senses engage. So it might be less like, like thinking of the unconscious. There might be a better, like when you're in the dark, you know things by feel. You don't necessarily see them as well, but there's a different awareness. You're hearing your other tools of perception engage a bit more. So even if you're not getting that eureka light that maybe gets invited in the summer solstice, it's a different kind of like upwelling knowing that happens in the winter. It's more incubating. It's more of an awareness. It's less like directly conscious, because it's more about what is revealed in the dark, what it is you come to know rather than see. So wherever you are, there's an opportunity for that injection of just a growing awareness that can then help you in the next season, which is Cancer season. So with solstice, we're coming into Cancer, and that's all about nurturing, mothering, protecting, taking care of the vulnerable things. So in this case, it's often what it is that's really inspired or lit up or understood or clarified with that energy of solstice is, okay, now you get to take that, but it's still just fresh. Like it's just a new insight, just a new awareness. It's not like a fully fledged muscular hero that's jumping out of the solstice. Like it's an idea, it's a concept, it's a beautiful new thing, and you get to take that Cancer energy to take care of it. The mother is what takes the vulnerable, fresh thing, grows it, nurtures it, loves it until it's old enough to stand on its own, and then they let it go. So there's a very important nature to the mother, but it's also finite. Once things are grown, you let it go. So it can't be like, ooh, it can't be possessive. A mother that's super possessive and clingy, not a good time. No, it doesn't help the growth. But no mother, absentee, is vulnerable, undernourished. So there's this balance as with all things. So whatever this new kind of insight, discernment, maybe you're kind of figuring it out, what was coming up from the unrest here. Maybe now you get to just care for it, nurture it, love it, and take that into the next season. So there, and that moves into like a very like emotional place, because now it's important. Now it's real, it's life, it's a value, and that connects to the heart in a way that when it's a bit more cerebral and mental Gemini stage, it's less emotional intensity or emotional investment that'll be coming in with Cancer season. So that's what I've got for you for today and for the month of June. So if you want a little bit more support, including a little bit more understanding of more of the planetary transits and the energy that's going to be present up until solstice, do check out my Gemini workshop. It's a pay what you can workshop on my YouTube channel. Going to be super helpful. A lot of good stuff in there that's going to be really supportive in this like churning up stage that you should definitely check out. Pay what you can, so there's no excuse. It's accessible wherever you're at, and I hope to see you next month. Take care, Leo.